just take the little white pill. It's good for your bones too. It's good for bone health.
I don't know that works with my laptop.
Oh, okay. All right. No problem. Set that there. Where's Dawn?
Well, yeah, where's Don this morning?
I don't know.
I was all ready to give him a seating assignment so that
He doesn't like being on the camera. This is on Facebook.
yeah.
Yeah, it is.
We only
There you
have
go.
Rod.
Take
Don't
care
want
of
that.
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
don't
it.
know.
Nobody can tell who we are anyway, right?
Let's put it in the clock.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Do you not want it on?
No, no, I don't.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, maybe if I do it here, it'll get me and Rod.
All right. I hope nobody sees
There
it
you
for
go.
now. Okay, well,
Did you
we're
have to have
live.
Stitches or what they do to your leg?
Yeah, it's stitches.
What'd you do to your leg?
I won't show you, but I'm still dressing it.
Dude, yeah.
What'd you do?
He stepped in a hole.
Stepped in a hole?
Not intentionally.
Ah,
And on the edge of this top of it was this piece of aluminum, 90-degree angle, unforgiving.
ooh.
Yeah.
It stripped the skin.
Skin
And
bone.
as
All the
flexible as
flesh.
aluminum is, it's really sharp.
Oh.
Okay,
Hmm.
we need to move on. I can't hear that story again. Whew.
Okay.
And
Well.
were you close to a hospital?
Not really.
Oh,
I did drive myself to the hospital. Tough Nebraska kid.
oh, yeah, sure.
So, well, let's pray. Gracious Lord, we celebrate this time together and your word and scripture as it comes alive for us this morning, and for those who are viewing, that it might do so for them as well. As we look at the readings for Reformation Sunday, we give thanks for the gift of the church and for the gift of your Holy Spirit that continues to enlighten us and call us to hear your word and to receive your sacrament, the means of your grace. We ask that you bless our lives and bless our church, bless our members who are watching, and bless those who are in our hearts this day as we pray for those who need your presence. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. By the
Well,
way, I broke down and bought a tablet, so I watched the service on Sunday
did you?
in my house, yes.
Oh, good.
So it was all right, but I'd rather come to church.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I'd rather have you in church.
Yeah.
But for those who can't, it's really
Sure.
helpful.
But it seems like every Sunday online, we get a couple visitors too, so.
Yeah, I've been talking about that. We get visitors from
Online,
friends of staff, family of staff members, family and friends of members, and
Some people from Bethel Lutheran are on almost
Beth-
every week.
yeah, and we welcome them and their pastor, PJ, right?
Mhm.
House. And anyway, we have home communion this week. So communion,
we have what?
home communion.
Oh, home.
So we'll give you communion kits here.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, you're
I'll come
here.
on Sunday.
Oh, you'll come on
All
Sunday?
right, I'll
Okay.
be here Sunday.
Okay.
Reformation Sunday, right?
Wearing my red.
We're red.
Ooh.
Yep,
We'll be
both
celebrating
Saturday and Sunday.
Husker
That's their victory.
The Husker trying.
competitiveness.
Yeah, there
Let's
you
go for that.
Can't believe they're down, Ohio State's favored by 26, but
Well,
Well, that's Vegas, though.
yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about.
it's good.
Hit a sore spot.
We're at Jeremiah, Prophet Jeremiah, chapter 31. I don't know. There's four of us. There's four of these, and I've already been talking too much. So.
Well, I'll start.
All right.
This is the first reading, is from Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, 31 through 34. The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant that I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, a covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, says the Lord. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall they teach one another or say to each other, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, says the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sin no more.
Yeah, it's classic Jeremiah passage.
Mhm.
I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God. They shall be my people.
So this is before the Babylonian captivity, and he's pointing to Jesus even then.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jesus sort of fulfills this.
Yes.
I'll just read my study Bible. Maybe it'll spark conversation. In this prose oracle, which oracle is what they call what's the speech from a prophet, Jeremiah promises a new covenant, not a new law. The old Mosaic covenant had been broken, but the new covenant will continue because of an inward transformation of the human heart that will allow the people to know God intimately and to be obedient to the commandments, and God will forgive and forget the people's sins. So,
What's the difference between a covenant and a law?
well, in the biblical parlance, covenant is a promise.
Mm.
And there's two kinds of covenants in the Bible. There's two-way covenants, and then there's the new covenant from Jesus, which is one way. The first covenant is really, the equation is, if you do this, I
do
will.
that. Mhm.
So if you obey my laws, my commandments, I will continue to rain down promise upon you. In the new covenant, it's not if then, it's because therefore. So because you are my people, because you are my sons and daughters, I love you. I promise you forgiveness and life.
Mhm.
So God is changing at least in the biblical understanding of covenant, it's the promise is received in two different ways. The new covenant is freely given promise, whereas the old covenant is, holding people to the grindstone.
Mhm.
So that's what we're really celebrating on Reformation too, is this new covenant, and we're celebrating grace. And that's what, to talk about the Reformation a little bit, that's what Luther was fighting with the Roman Church at the time, and Pope Leo was taking the old covenant and using that formula as a means of building the basilica, selling indulgences, so on and so forth.
And you're trying to put a cost on the free gift of grace.
Yes, he was, and scaring people, making people feel obligated and fearful, and anything that would motivate them to pay for a piece of paper that said they could get Uncle Johnny out of purgatory for 5 minutes, was, and not just Uncle Johnny, but themselves for whatever sins. I mean, it wasn't too much different than what the Pharisees were peddling at the temple when they were selling the animals and exchanging money at the temple. So the better animal that you sacrifice, the more forgiveness. What a bloody mess.
Yeah.
That's it. I still don't understand where the just off subject, where the Catholics get the idea that you have to suffer in purgatory, until the return of Christ, or until you've worked off your sins, or the people at home have, prayed for you enough, or lit enough candles.
This idea of purgatory, I don't know enough about where that came from in the Roman Catholic Church, but I know the basic concept is because they still hold on to this idea of a three-tiered universe where it's heaven, earth, hell, and then somewhere in between is this holding pen,
Space. Mhm.
like you're herding cattle, waiting for, you're either going to slaughter or you're going out into the field somewhere, and I don't quite get it. And to me,
Jesus made it a whole lot easier than that. He told us, have faith in me, and I'll speak to my Father, and you'll be there with me. So
yeah, and faith, when we think of faith, I think in terms of, being good little children so that we can get a piece of candy at the end of the day. We're really missing the boat in terms of how to live our lives for others. And so I like what Jeremiah says, that the Lord says, I will put my law within them and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God and they shall be my people.
and I love the last line, I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sins no more. And we're all sinners. It's nice to know that we don't have to pay the price that we should pay.
Yeah,
Because he did it already.
absolutely. I wonder how old Jeremiah was at this point in his life. He was a young boy. And just his wisdom is pretty advanced for his youth. He's a teenager or what he is, but anyway, any other thoughts on?
Yeah, I think I don't know, like the Reformation also is pointing to this. A huge part of what Martin Luther did was make the Bible accessible to the people, because everything was done in Latin. And especially if you were in the lower classes, you didn't know Latin, so you went to mass but had no idea what was happening.
Mhm.
You just knew that you had to do it. So, he translated it into German. And so I think that verse 34, everyone shall know me. That idea of like an intimate faith, of like faith isn't something that the church gives to you. It's something that you have with God. I think Martin Luther set a good example of that, of making the Bible accessible so that people could interpret the word for themselves instead of just through the clergy or
Having
the
somebody else
elders,
tell
the
them.
only people that had access to the Bible.
Mhm.
That's why worship is so important, is because of the means of grace. Means of grace is what helps create faith in the human heart. And, you can get that out in nature to a degree, but, without word and without sacrament, without the community of faith, that's what's so important about church. And having that access, like you said, Greta, to the Word of God through language. And the church leaders of old, lorded that over the people as a means of control, so they could control
Mhm.
population.
Keep them under their thumbs.
Well, and the church and governments were, intertwined. Especially, they used religion was an easy way of controlling people, and you control people by not letting them have access to what you do. Psalm.
I can read that. Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth be moved, and though the mountains shake in the depths of the sea, though its waters rage and foam, and though the mountains tremble with its tumult. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of the city, it shall not be shaken. God shall help it at the break of day. The nations rage and the kingdoms shake. God speaks and the earth melts away. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Come now, regard the works of the Lord, what desolation God has brought upon the earth. Behold the one who makes war to cease in all the world, who breaks the bow and shatters the spear and burns the shields with fire. Be still then and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. And I think, you were talking about back in the early church days and the days of Reformation that the church controlled the government controlled the church. And I think today, we were very smart when we set up our Constitution and said that we couldn't have a church. But today, I think the world is trying to take away, our faith and our Christianity. So they want to control us. The government always wants to control us.
Yeah.
And, it's
For good or for bad.
right.
Well, we were talking about that last week and how influential secularism is in today's culture, and how that's, if I were to name one of the biggest challenges that the church faces today, I would say it's that. And people that have brushed aside the value of the church, and I don't know. I always think about the church as and culture as a tension, because you want to relate to people, right? You have to understand the culture.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we as a church help the culture understand that we have a gift to give that nothing else in the secular world can give, And the church is an important part of people's lives, and assuming that the church is not corrupt, and it's faith, that I think is really beneficial for people. It seems to have been lost a little bit in North America.
Well, I think it's been lost, started being lost in Europe and just folded over, into us. And, we just have to be faithful and show our faith to the world. So, in our actions, like you said earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I like about the Lutheran Church is that you can go to an ELCA church or whatever. You can go to a Lutheran church in Florida. You can go to a Lutheran church in Maine. You can go to a Lutheran church in Omaha, vice versa, wherever. And it's going to be similar. But then there's cultural things that play into that. I mean, we've been down to the church, the ELCA church in Charlotte, Amalie, in the Virgin Islands, and St. Frederick Lutheran Church, which is the oldest ELCA congregation in North America or in Western Hemisphere. And it's a Danish congregation. It still has some of the traits of the old Danish church. And then their culture that's on the island is very much a part of that church. So they have a steel drum band,
Ah,
and they have a bell choir. They have a steel drum band. And then the hurricane season, they have a big service to pray for safety. There's a whole section of liturgy in one of the hymnals that has to do with hurricane season. But otherwise, everything's the same. And that's what I like about the church is its flexibility to deal with things, but yet still hold the core values. But the one thing, I'm talking way too much this morning, guys, but be still then and know that I am God is probably one of those things I would memorize just in your daily prayers. That's one of those things that I go back to, especially when I feel like I have no control over the world around me.
Well, you just a second ago, you were saying you were talking too much, and I think we all have that problem of thinking too much and talking too much, and if we just have some quiet time and let God talk to us, and if we have that quiet time and let him speak to us, we'll see the wonders of this world that he gave us, that all the things that he created. And so many times, if we just shut up and listen, he'll lead us to the answers that we need to have. So
This is one of those times too in the church. I think shutting up and listening is probably really helpful.
Yeah.
So I admire people who meditate. I've tried to meditate, but I get distracted.
yeah.
Thoughts sneak in and.
You two type A.
Because I can fix it.
Yeah.
Well, like verses 2 and 3 are sort of describing this tumult. I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now as a society. There's a lot of division and shaking and fear. So, verse 1 sort of sums it up. Our refuge and strength, very present help in trouble. We're not alone, no matter what we're going through. God is there with us.
Yeah, the Lord of hosts is with us. But God just doesn't want us to sit back and wait either. He wants us to do the best we can, listen to our leaders and, everybody who's in power, God put them there. And the leaders of our church, you're here, Pastor Chris, because God wanted you to be here. And luckily for us, you listened. So, it's the same way with our president. Some people love him, some people hate him, but, for some reason, God decided that he was the one we have now, and we'll see what he decides next month,
We pray for our leaders, no matter who they are.
That's right. Yeah, it's just so.
This is one of those Psalms too. It's. I mean, people are looking for a good devotional, and you don't know. Maybe you just don't know how to start your devotional life. I think the Psalms are a perfect place to begin, but Psalm 46 to me seems like a great devotional psalm for, exactly what Greta was saying and what we've all been saying about just to remember that whatever's going on around us, that God's still in charge. God is still God.
Right. We need to listen to our leaders, but we can't put our faith in our president or in Dr. Fauci or anybody. We have to put our faith is in God, but we need to listen and use our best judgment that God gave us.
Yeah. Well, it helps to know that God, even when we don't think God is in control, to know that God, no matter what, we're still in God's hands. And that's what I think this coronavirus has done to a lot of families. And, couldn't say goodbye to loved ones because of the fear, and to just, you have to have that kind of faith and trust and knowing that, God is holding your loved one's hand through this whole process. I can't imagine what that's like. I don't want to know what that's like, but God's in control.
I'll read Romans 3:19 through 28. Now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be silenced and the whole world may be held accountable to God. For no human being will be justified from his side by deeds prescribed by the law, for through the law comes the knowledge of sin. But now, apart from law, the righteousness of God has been disclosed and is attested by the law and the prophets, the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe. For there is no distinction, since all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. They are now justified by his grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God put forward as a sacrifice of atonement by his blood, effective through faith. He did this to show his righteousness, because in his divine forbearance he had passed over the sins previously committed. It was to prove at the present time that he himself is righteous and that he justifies the one who has faith in Jesus. Then what becomes of boasting? It is excluded. By what law? By that of the works? No, but by the law of faith. For we hold that a person is justified by faith apart from works prescribed by the law.
There you go. Saved by grace through faith.
There's a fun camp song that's now stuck in my head.
That's a camp song?
Through faith, yeah.
Okay.
Say yeah, grace, whoop, whoop, whoop.
There you go. Maybe you should teach that one to our youth on Sunday. We could have a camp song sing along on Zoom. We'll put a little fire pit behind you. We could be in a campfire. We'll get somebody to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Well, and here again, it shows that grace is the free gift from God.
As you were reading this, Greta, I was thinking that some of the most faithful people, and I mean, it's hard to judge people's faith. I'm not suggesting that we do that, but as a pastor, you come across people that you just know you're in awe of their faith and how strong their faith is. And all of those people are very, very humble. And there seems to be a correlation between just that humility and the sense of faith. And when Paul says that, when he talks about boasting, what becomes of boasting, it's not how great we are or try to be. It's really being humble enough to accept the fact that it's God's grace that far surpasses anything we could do. So I don't know for what that's worth, but you come across people every once in a while that it's just like, whoa. I'm just in awe of how faithful you are, and always inspiring.
Yeah, I'm still working on the humble part. The older I get and the more I study God's word, it sure helps me to be humble, because I know that it's all about him. And everything that I have is because of him. So,
Yeah, oh,
but the old pride still surfaces once in a while. The old, I can do it best. I can do this. It's amazing how much easier things go, whether it's a little project at home or wherever it is, if I ask God to help me before I start it, and don't think that I'm the smartest guy in the room.
yeah, you like me and try to circumvent the instruction book.
Yeah,
Like,
instruction.
I can do this.
Mhm,
Yeah,
Sure.
And then
I don't
you're
have to read these. Mhm, mhm.
then I remind myself that some engineer somewhere designed this. Maybe I should read the instructions.
Yeah.
See, some of my favorite passages are Romans 14. Romans, the 12th chapter, verse 14. Work happily together. Don't try, and this is my Bible, don't try to act big. Don't try to get into the good graces of important people, but enjoy the company of ordinary folks. And don't think you know it all. I mean, that's pretty basic.
Wow.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why it's so important for us to read and study this book, because this is a great instruction manual.
Mhm.
And we can't go off thinking that we know it all without getting input from him. And it's also important to do these Bible studies to help us understand his word.
Mm-hmm. Well, life has a way of humbling us too. And
Yes.
you don't get your leg ripped open and not be humbled by that. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Are you queasy?
Yes.
I was too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's too bad Pope Leo didn't read this and use this as because he was not humble. He was not a humble man.
Well, it's for so many people, it's all about power, and some people use this book to help them get power, and use the word of the Lord to help them get power.
Yeah, use it as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just not what we're about. No. Any other thoughts on Romans?
So until I read Romans for about the fourth time, I didn't have. Paul was never one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But I love Romans. There's so much good stuff in there. So much, he directs us so well, and it's also, I think, one of his humblest books. So
He's not talking about himself so much.
right, yeah. And there's so much great direction in the book of Romans.
Yeah, that's where we're informed of the dichotomy between law and gospel, and go straight to Romans about body and spirit, flesh and spirit. He does a really good. He does really good in explaining those kinds of concepts to us in Romans. helping us understand. I think Galatians too, and helping us understand, I'll say the concept of grace, but to some degree it is a concept, but the gift of grace. So, well, John 8, 31 through 36, we get this text every single year. So Jesus and Abraham. And then Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." They answered him, "We are descendants of Abraham and have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean by saying you will be made free?" Jesus answered them, "Very truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not have a permanent place in the household. The Son has a place there forever. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed." That was, this conversation right here was a real one for the Jews who were gathered around Jesus and trying to figure out who a Messiah was, because the Messiah for them was someone who was going to free them from a political enemy. And Jesus came to free us from a spiritual enemy. And so that's what's going on here. And Abraham is the model of political freedom, law. Jesus is the model for spiritual freedom, gospel.
So I went to college in Maryville, Missouri. It was Northwest Missouri State at that time. Now it's, I don't know. Anyway, this "and the truth will make you free" was above the door to the main building. Which I always thought was good.
Did it say underneath that it was from John?
I don't know. I just know that it said "and the truth will make you free." I can't
Interesting.
remember that far back.
Because that's a state school. I just
Yeah.
was interested in.
Well, back in the good old days, even state schools believed in God.
Is there any God language in Memorial Stadium? I'm trying to think.
I think there's something right outside
I don't
the
know.
West Stadium up on the, I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Well, the truth seems to be a real interesting talking point for political discourse these days.
True.
How do we know what's true and what's not?
Yeah, that's,
I mean,
Cindy and I listen at night during the news, but the only time we turn the television on is 10 o'clock news, and these political ads come up and, "Oh, she's so horrible. Oh no, she's so great. Oh no, she," and I think because we've lost,
I know which one you're talking about.
we've lost the faith in our life that.
Now we have to have fact check, which, how do you know that's true?
Right, and
Right.
and people don't even care. They know they're not telling the truth, but they don't care. They're trying to get their way.
Yeah.
And it's just, so it's, and if you're gonna watch television, you have to laugh at those ads because you can't take them all seriously.
No, you can't.
I'll be really glad when they're over.
Oh yeah, 2 weeks.
13 days.
Yep,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I already voted, so.
so did I.
Well, that's just, I'm working the polls here at the church,
Oh, good.
and they'll you know, probably lucky if we get 20 people come and vote, just,
I'm wondering, because everybody's done,
yeah.
Um,
And they're all worried about counting it and, I don't know what's the big problem. They have to count that many ballots on election day anyway, so.
Except there seems to be a lot more. The vote's gonna be more people than it's been in a long time,
You
so,
would think,
yeah. Well, they've said that it's already surpassed,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
well, you can go on to the election commission website and find out if your ballot was accepted or not.
Yep. I checked
Oh, really?
this morning.
Yep, and I imagine that if you go to the polling place, you could do the same thing a day after, make sure that your vote
Huh.
got credited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, especially with the mail-in ones, if there was an error or something on the
Something, yeah.
envelope, they might reject
I
it.
mean, I put mine in at the library up on 90th Street, but,
Yeah, it's worth checking, just to make sure they didn't have
yeah,
any
I'll
errors.
go to the what? The
Douglas County Election Commission,
Douglas
Yeah.
County.
just Google it and,
Yeah, I Google vote check Nebraska,
Okay,
oh, okay.
and there's several different websites where you put in your info and it says.
Each county has its own.
Hmm.
I didn't trust anybody. I took my ballot right to the office on 120th. I didn't want it to get lost in the mail. I
Right.
didn't want it to be anywhere
I
else.
debated one way or the other, but
The big thing is to sign the back of it. I mean,
yeah, the
Yes.
envelope. Hmm.
that's the big thing.
Yeah, they said, 391 people had already had theirs thrown out, but they can fix it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Still have time to fix
Yep,
it.
they
But
can
see,
still
that's
fix it.
what, people should go to the polls and vote. I understand everybody's afraid. But part of me thinks if you can't follow instructions enough to sign the back of the envelope, just like they told you to do, then I don't think we need to count your vote anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe. This is the first time I've ever mailed mine in or sent it in. I've always gone to the polls.
Mhm.
Well, with coronavirus,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a big
Mhm.
fear, and
Yeah.
there's several factors,
Sure.
but yeah, I think people are just nervous in general right
Mm-hmm.
now. Anxiety's high in the culture.
So in the primary, we was here and everybody had masks and we had all kinds of spray for everybody and, you used a pen only once and, threw it away and,
And they social distance you as you come in.
yeah, so
It's safe.
yeah. But I couldn't believe when I took, 2 weeks ago, when I took my ballot to drop it off, there was a line there. It was like the first day or something that you could vote in person.
Okay.
And there was a line outside the office and there's been a line every day out there to vote.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
I wish every American that is eligible to vote would vote. I mean, that would be the most,
and the ones who are dead or aren't eligible would not vote.
That's right. They're not supposed, the dead ones are not supposed to vote, no.
they're,
Well, yeah, but
There-
when you send the ballots to everybody who's registered, how do you know about all the people who died in the last year?
I know.
And, the states that have been doing that for a long time do keep register and they've learned that they need to do that. But the states who are doing it for the first time, they haven't culled the rolls and
Their list.
looked at the obits every day to know, is that the John Jones that, that died? Where did he live? Because they don't give addresses in the obits.
Uh-uh.
how would you cross-check that with a social security number or what? I mean,
Uh,
How do you know?
when you die, if you die, how do people know, how does the government know you're dead?
Well, the funeral home tells Social Security,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
yeah.
And so they cross-check it with updated
for
social.
sure, but if you're only 25 or 35, or if you're not getting the social security,
Well, you still have a social security
you
number.
still have a
though.
number.
Well, yeah, you still have a
So-
number, yeah.
I feel like there has to be some
Or what if your body's
mass
still,
database.
Right.
what if your body's still warm and you've already,
Oh,
I
that's
know.
interesting.
Like
If
you
I've already
guys the day
submitted
before?
my ballot, right, and it's been accepted, but then I died before November 3rd.
Up,
Who knows?
Well, you already voted, so
Yeah.
as a
Right.
living person, so I would imagine that that counts.
Who
Right,
knows?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm refinancing my house, and there's 3 credit bureaus.
Yep.
And one of the credit bureaus has that I am a minor.
Okay.
Wow.
Huh.
Now, I tried to call the number, but, I could never punch the right button. I mean, I worked at it. So finally, I just sent them a letter. I had their address. So I sent a letter.
With a copy of your birth certificate or what?
No, I just first of all, I gave my correct social security number. I told them my date of birth, all that information.
Did it change it?
I don't
Oh,
know
they
yet.
just, okay. Yeah, this is a great year to refinance. Interest rates are
Yeah. Mhm.
low.
So,
Well, back to,
Truthful and keep.
Yes.
I guess, the other question to ask, the theological, homiletical question for me is, what are we still slaves to? And can we let go of that? What does it mean to be a slave? Because we're all, I was watching I don't know what I was watching, but they were talking about our cell phones and how the government they could track everything you do based on your movements on your cell phone. And I'm thinking, and everybody wants a cell phone. So how do you get away from this? I mean, we're slaves to these devices. And therefore, if some hacker wanted to hack into your phone,
oh, sure.
they could do all kinds of things.
Well, sure, we don't know if somebody's listening to our conversation right now because
I
they
hope they
could
are.
hack the phone, or the government has the right to do that after 9/11 and, so.
So,
Yeah.
what are we really truly free?
Well, I would say that I'm a slave to perfection.
Okay.
That's something
I'm
that
sorry, I was to say it
to
again.
perfection and my own ideals of standards that I want for myself. Like that's something that really has a lot of power over me. So any of that rather than, I think we are also slaves to technology for better or for worse, but what are those things, or is it ego, or is it anxiety, or what are those things that you are a slave to in your own mind?
I'm a slave to a really good steak. Yeah, I hear you.
Well, there's more depression now, and that we've never had before. It seems like it's at a higher level, or more people are talking about it. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but that's kind of scary for
It
me.
is. Yeah,
But-
it is.
Well, I think that, it's a fact that during this coronavirus time, suicides have gone up a lot. And, again, if you put your faith in the world and you're not looking at God, you be miserable, and you can understand why some people just want to end it because they don't have control and they don't let God be in control.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And I think sometimes suicide is used to hurt other people, and it is the biggest hurt that you can give to your family.
Yeah, well,
All right, on that depressing note, should we thank the Lord and think about good things?
well, thank you for today, and hopefully see you in church on Sunday. trying to figure out how we're gonna worship on Christmas Eve. That's the big thing on my mind. So who's gonna want to come to worship? So I'll be talking about that a little bit. Trying to figure out how many worship services we need and
Trying to convince my parents to come here for Christmas instead of me going to Texas.
oh really?
We'll see. I don't know.
There you
It
go.
was an idea.
Anyway,
Yeah.
our Father who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name.
Thy
Thy
kingdom come,
Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
And if we just say the Lord's Prayer, if we just take time to listen to the words,
Be still and know that I am God.
Yeah.
Phil, would help us learn about God a lot.